Hashtag the unveiling of secrets, a legacy reclaimed. The biting November rain turned the sprawling, opulent gravestones of Evergreen Memorial into a melancholic tapestry, as Eleanor Sterling witnessed a scene that would forever alter her meticulously ordered life. There, before the polished granite of her son, Arthur's tomb, a young woman in a modest cafe uniform cradled a small boy, both weeping as if the world had crumbled around them. Eleanor, at 55, the formidable heiress of Sterling Global Holdings, froze, her gloved hands tightening around a bouquet of white magnolias. She had never seen these two strangers, yet something in the woman's posture and the child's delicate features sent an inexplicable tremor through her. "Excuse me." Eleanor's voice sliced the cemetery silence like a razor. "This is a private moment. You're in the wrong place." The young woman looked up, her eyes red-rimmed from tears. "I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone would be here today." Her voice trembled, yet carried an unexpected dignity. "Who are you?" Eleanor's ruthless business instincts flared. "And why are you weeping at my son's grave?" The boy, no older than 4, looked at Eleanor with brilliant emerald eyes she knew intimately, eyes she'd seen in her own reflection for decades, eyes identical to Arthur's. "My name is Maya Vance," the young woman replied, wiping tears with the back of her hand. "And he's Leo. I work at the Daily Grind downtown. I come here every month because—" She hesitated, glancing at Leo. "Because Arthur was important to us." Eleanor felt the world tilt on its axis. Arthur had died 3 years prior in a car accident at 28, taking with him all her dreams for the Sterling legacy. She meticulously investigated every detail of his life after the funeral, desperately seeking meaning in her loss. She found no evidence of serious relationships, let alone a child. Important how? Eleanor's voice dropped an octave. The rain intensified, yet none of them moved. Maya met Eleanor's gaze with a courage that surprised the billionaire. "Because Leo is his son," she said, "and because I promised Arthur I'd always take care of him, no matter what." The magnolias slipped from Eleanor's grasp, scattering over the cold gravestone. 3 years. 3 years she had grieved Arthur's death, believing her lineage had ended with him. 3 years, only to discover now that she had a grandson of mixed heritage, raised by a cafe worker, living a life she could never have imagined. Yet there was something in Maya's eyes that didn't fit the simple story she was telling. A wariness, a hidden fear, as if she held secrets far greater than Leo's mere existence. What Eleanor didn't know was that this revelation was merely the first thread in a web of lies and betrayals involving people very close to her, and that Maya's apparent vulnerability concealed a strength poised to shake the foundations of Eleanor's privileged world. 2 weeks after the cemetery encounter, Eleanor had transformed her private study into a command center. Reports from private investigators covered the century-old mahogany table. Each page revealed details about Maya Vance's life, leaving Eleanor increasingly disturbed. Single, no known family, works 60 hours a week at 2 jobs to support her son, Eleanor murmured, scanning the documents. Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in the city's less affluent district. No formal education beyond high school. Her personal assistant, Marcus Thorne, stood silently by the armchair. He had seen Eleanor dismantle corporate empires with less emotion than she now displayed. And the boy's mother? Eleanor's icy blue eyes fixed on a grainy photo of Leo playing in a public park. "Here's where it gets interesting," Marcus said, opening a separate folder. "We've been unable to find a birth certificate, hospital records, or any official documentation regarding who gave birth to Leo. It's as if the biological mother never existed." Eleanor tapped her fingers on the table, a habit her executives had learned to dread. 3 years ago, when Arthur died, she had investigated every second of his life, searching for meaning, for clues, for anything that would justify the loss. She had never found evidence of serious relationships. "Schedule a meeting with this." "Maya," Eleanor said, pronouncing the name as if it were a foreign word. "In my office tomorrow at 2 p.m. The next day, Maya arrived at the Sterling Global Holdings headquarters, dressed in her best and only thrift store suit. The 60-story building seemed to defy her to enter, its glass walls reflecting a distorted version of herself. Eleanor greeted her in her top-floor office, where the windows offered a panoramic view of the city. It was a calculated display of power, and both women knew it. "Have a seat," Eleanor said, gesturing to a strategically placed chair lower than her own. "We need to talk about Leo." Maya remained standing. "I prefer to stand, thank you." "As you wish." Eleanor opened a folder on the table. "I've had you investigated, Ms. Vance. 2 jobs, no savings, living in conditions unsuitable for a child." "Leo is well cared for and deeply loved," Maya responded, her voice calm but firm. Eleanor smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sure you do your best, but a sterling child deserves more than your best. He deserves the best money can buy." "And what exactly are you suggesting?" $200,000, Eleanor said, sliding a check across the table. "For a start, Leo comes to live with me. He gets the education he deserves, the future Arthur would have wanted for him. You can visit on weekends, of course." Maya looked at the check as if it were a venomous snake. "Are you trying to buy my son?" "He's not your son." Eleanor's mask of civility began to crack. "He's my grandson, blood of my blood. And frankly, a 20-something cafe worker cannot provide what a family like ours can." "Family?" Maya chuckled, but there was no humor in her voice. "Eleanor, may I call you Eleanor? You want to talk about family? Leo has called me Mom for 3 years. I get up with him in the middle of the night when he has nightmares. I teach him math at the kitchen table. I read him stories to sleep. That is family." Eleanor rose, towering over Maya. "Noble sentiments, but reality is stark. You work like a slave to pay rent that probably takes half your income. Leo deserves private schools, world travel, opportunities you can never give him. And he deserves unconditional love," Maya retorted, "something you clearly didn't give your own son." The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor felt as though she'd been slapped. "How dare you?" "Arthur told me about you," Maya continued, her voice low but cutting. "About the meetings you missed, the soccer games you never attended, the birthdays where you sent expensive gifts through assistants. You want Leo because he's a second chance to clear your conscience, not because you genuinely care." Eleanor clenched her fists. "You don't know me." "No, but I knew your son. I know exactly why he never mentioned Leo to you." Maya picked up the check and tore it in half. The pieces fluttered to the floor like withered petals. "Leo is not for sale." "Then we'll do this the hard way." Eleanor's voice took on a dangerous edge. "I have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, investigators, contacts at every level of government. I can prove that a single uneducated mother living in poverty cannot possibly act in the child's best interest." Maya smiled for the first time since entering the office, and something in that smile made Eleanor hesitate. "Eleanor," Maya said softly, "you're assuming I'm just a poor cafe worker you can intimidate. But there are things about me, about Leo, about Arthur, that you don't know yet. And when you discover them—" She paused, her eyes glinting with a determination that surprised the billionaire. "Well, let's just say your investigators aren't as good as you think." She turned to the door, stopping only to look over her shoulder. "And Eleanor, the next time you want to discuss Leo, it will be on my terms, not yours." After Maya left, Eleanor stood alone in her office, the floor still covered with the torn pieces of the check. For the first time in decades, someone had walked out a negotiation with her, maintaining complete control of the situation. What Eleanor couldn't understand was why a simple cafe worker displayed such unwavering confidence. It was as if Maya knew something, some secret, some ace up her sleeve that rendered all of Eleanor's threats and power irrelevant. And even more unsettling, for the first time in her life, Eleanor Sterling felt observed, studied, evaluated by someone who saw through all her defenses and was utterly unimpressed by what she found on the other side. 3 days after the confrontation, Eleanor received a call that left her stunned. Her lead attorney, Richard Sterling, from a prestigious firm of Sterling and Associates, sounded rattled, something exceptionally rare in their 20-year partnership. "Eleanor, I have to tell you something about the custody case," he said, his voice strained. "I received a call today, Ms. Vance's legal representation." "She hired a lawyer?" Eleanor scoffed, tapping her fingers on the table. With what money? Must be some inexperienced public defender. Actually, Richard paused. It's Blackstone, Caldwell, and Pierce. They're representing her pro bono. Eleanor nearly spilled her coffee. Blackstone, Caldwell, and Pierce was one of the 3 largest law firms in the country, specializing in civil rights cases, and known for never losing a major court battle. That's impossible. Why would they be interested in some random cafe worker? I don't know, but there's more. They've already filed a preventative injunction, claiming any attempt at forced removal of the child would constitute legal kidnapping based on socioeconomic discrimination. Eleanor slammed the phone down, so hard it cracked. Maya had played her first card. It was far more powerful than Eleanor could have ever imagined. Meanwhile, in Maya's modest apartment, a very different meeting was underway. The room was filled with people Eleanor would never have expected to find there. Dr. Julian Chun, a law professor from Columbia University, investigative journalist Sophia Reed, known for her exposés on corporate corruption, and in the center of it all, an elegant woman in her 50s whom Maya treated with obvious affection and respect. Aunt Evelyn, thank you for coming, Maya said, hugging the woman. I know the flight from San Francisco was long. Evelyn Vance smiled, her intelligent eyes gleaming with the same fire Maya had shown in Eleanor's office. Daughter, when you called and said the time had finally come, I canceled all my engagements. We've been waiting 3 years for this moment. Leo played on the floor, oblivious to the momentous conversation unfolding around him. Dr. Chin opened a voluminous folder filled with documents and photographs. Maya, are you sure you want to do this? He asked. Once we start, there's no turning back. Eleanor Sterling has immense resources, and she won't hesitate to use them all. Dr. Chun, Maya responded, her voice quiet but resolute, I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Every night course I took, every law book I read, every contact I cultivated, it was all to protect Leo and honor Arthur's memory. Sophia Reed looked up from her laptop. The evidence you've gathered is impressive. Maya, 3 years of meticulous documentation on Sterling Global Holdings' questionable business practices, including local political bribes and systematic labor rights violations. Evelyn walked to the window, gazing at the apartment's modest view. Eleanor believes her wealth makes her untouchable. She has no idea my niece has spent the last 3 years studying her every move, every dirty deal, every tax evasion scheme. Aunt Evelyn taught corporate law at the University of Chicago for 30 years. Maya explained to Dr. Chun. She was the one who taught me that knowledge is the only weapon they can't buy or steal from you. Maya's phone rang. It was Eleanor, clearly furious. What game are you playing? Eleanor shrieked into the phone. Blackstone, Caldwell, and Pierce. How's a cafe worker get lawyers of that caliber? Maya put the phone on speaker so everyone could hear. Eleanor, I warned you there were things about me you hadn't discovered yet. I don't care what tricks you're using. Leo is my grandson, and I have unlimited resources to get what I want. Unlimited resources? Maya smiled, looking at her allies. Eleanor, you're assuming money is the only type of power that exists. But what if I told you there's something far more powerful? And what would that be? The truth. Eleanor laughed disdainfully. Truth doesn't pay for expensive lawyers. You're right, Maya conceded. But the truth about your illegal dealings, about how you built your empire through fraudulent contracts and systematic bribery, that truth is worth far more than money to certain people. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Are you bluffing? Eleanor finally said, but her voice had lost its earlier confidence. Sophia Reed, from the Metropolitan Chronicle, would like to speak with you, Maya said, handing the phone to the journalist. Good afternoon, Miss Sterling. Sophia said in a professional tone. I'm finalizing an investigative series on questionable corporate practices. I'd like to offer you the opportunity to comment on the allegations we've documented. Eleanor immediately hung up. Evelyn smiled, proud of her niece. Maya, you've learned well. Never attack head-on when you can flank. Dr. Chin closed his briefcase. The legal strategy is sound. We have precedents for cases where attempts to remove children solely based on socioeconomic status were deemed discriminatory. And I have 3 years of research on every dirty deal Eleanor has made, Sophia added. Contracts with shell companies, suspicious payments to public officials, covered up environmental violations, enough to destroy any reputation. Maya picked Leo up in her arms. He smiled innocently at the adults surrounding him. What Eleanor doesn't understand is that I'm not just fighting for Leo. I'm fighting against a system that believes money buys everything, including the right to destroy families. Evelyn approached and placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. Your mother would be proud, daughter. She always said education was the only inheritance no one could steal from you. Aunt Evelyn raised me after my parents died. Maya explained to the others. She taught me that it doesn't matter where you come from, but where you're going. And she taught me that sometimes, to protect what you love, you have to be willing to go to war. The phone rang again. This time, it was Eleanor's lawyer. Ms. Vance, my client wishes to propose a settlement. $200,000 and supervised visits. Maya looked at her allies, all shaking their heads. Mr. Sterling, tell your client that Leo is not for sale at any price. And also tell her that she has 48 hours to withdraw any legal threats against our family, or else. Or else what? Or by Monday morning, the Metropolitan Chronicle will publish a full series on Sterling Global Holdings' questionable business methods. And I'm sure the Internal Revenue Service will be very interested in some of the documents we've obtained. After hanging up, Sophia smiled. Maya, are you ready for this? Once we publish, Eleanor will use all her power against you. Maya looked at Leo, who was now asleep in her arms. Sophia, I've known this day would come for 3 years. Eleanor thinks her wealth makes her invincible, but she's never faced someone who had time to properly prepare. Dr. stood up, organizing his papers. The legal petition will be filed tomorrow. Precedents are on our side. Evelyn kissed Maya's forehead. Remember, daughter, they may have the money, but we have justice on our side. That night, as Leo slept, Maya opened a trunk in her room. Inside were diplomas from night law courses, certificates from administration programs, letters of recommendation from renowned professors, and at the bottom, a photograph of her with Arthur and a young woman with fair skin. The photograph Eleanor had never seen. The photograph that explained not only who Leo's mother was, but also why Maya had prepared so meticulously for this confrontation. Eleanor Sterling was about to discover that underestimating a person can be the most expensive mistake anyone can make, and that sometimes the sweetest revenge comes not through force, but through patience, preparation, and the perfect moment to reveal truths some people would do anything to keep hidden. What Eleanor still didn't know was that the battle for Leo's custody was just the first move in a much larger game, a game Maya had been planning since the day Arthur died, and one that was about to expose secrets that could destroy not only Eleanor's reputation, but the entire empire she had built on lies. On Monday morning, Eleanor awoke to 37 missed calls on her cell phone. Her assistant, Marcus, stood outside her room, holding a tablet with an expression she had never seen before, genuine fear. Eleanor, you have to see this, he said, handing over the device with trembling hands. The headline of the Metropolitan Chronicle filled the entire screen. Empire built on corruption. Leaked documents revealed decades of Sterling Global Holdings crimes. Eleanor felt her legs give way. Beneath the headline, dozens of digitized documents showed fraudulent contracts, illegal payments to politicians, money laundering schemes. Each page was a death sentence for her reputation. How did they get this? She whispered, scrolling through the article. There were photographs of secret meetings she was sure no one had documented, recordings of conversations that should have been private. Her phone rang. It was Richard Sterling, her lawyer. Eleanor, it's a complete disaster, he said bluntly. The Internal Revenue Service has already issued search and seizure warrants. The FBI is on their way to your home. And there's more. The Securities Commission has suspended all trading of Sterling Global Holdings shares. Eleanor hung up and immediately called Maya, her hands trembling with rage and despair. You, she shrieked when Maya answered. You did this. How dare you destroy my life? Good morning, Eleanor, Maya replied, her voice as calm as a Sunday morning. I assume you read the news. I'm going to finish you. I'm going to use all my resources to. What resources? Maya interrupted gently. Because from what I see here in the news, your bank accounts were frozen 15 minutes ago. Eleanor rushed to her computer, her hands frantically typing passwords into banking websites. Asterisk access denied. Access denied. Access denied. Asterisk, it's impossible, she muttered. Eleanor, there's something my investigators didn't mention, Maya continued. Sophia Reed doesn't work alone. She has a team specializing in financial crimes. Every document you fraudulently signed in the last 20 years was being tracked. The living room television showed reporters in front of the Sterling Global Holdings building. Employees left, carrying boxes, their careers destroyed in a single morning. The name she had built for decades was being tarnished live on national television. Why? Eleanor asked, her voice broken. Why are you doing this to me? Why did you never ask about Leo's mother? Maya said simply, if you had, you would have discovered her name was Caroline Sterling. Eleanor's blood ran cold. That's impossible. Caroline was Robert Sterling's daughter. Your cousin. The same cousin you betrayed in 1995 to steal his share of the family business. Memories rushed back like an avalanche. Robert, young and trusting, signing documents Eleanor had altered. The family dispute she had won through lies and manipulation. His expulsion from the family. Caroline grew up in poverty because of your betrayal, Maya continued. She met Arthur in college. They fell in love, but she was afraid to tell him who she was, knowing you'd banish him from your life as you did her father. Eleanor vaguely recalled Robert mentioning a daughter before he disappeared from their lives. When Caroline died giving birth, Arthur sought me out desperate. I was her best friend, and he knew Caroline wanted me to care for Leo. But Arthur also discovered the truth about what you did to Caroline's family. He spent the last months of his life investigating you, Eleanor, collecting evidence of your crimes. When he died in that accident, he left everything to me. Documents, recordings, evidence. He asked me to wait for the right moment. Eleanor looked out the window and saw FBI vans parked in front of her house. The accident, she began. It wasn't an accident, Maya said calmly. Arthur discovered a money laundering scheme involving dangerous people. People you hired to solve problems. They killed your own son, Eleanor. The revelation struck Eleanor like a gunshot. Arthur had died because he had discovered her crimes. She had killed her own son for her greed. Leo is the last legitimate Sterling, Maya continued. Caroline was the rightful heir to a fortune you stole. And now, with all your accounts frozen and your company confiscated, Leo has finally received what was always his. Eleanor heard heavy footsteps ascending the stairs, authoritative voices shouting, FBI, open up. You planned this for 3 years, Eleanor whispered, finally understanding the magnitude of what had happened. Arthur taught me that patience is the key to revenge, Maya replied. Every document I've collected, every course I've taken, every contact I've cultivated, all for this moment. The door burst open. Federal agents entered with arrest warrants. Eleanor Sterling, you're under arrest for tax fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. As the handcuffs clicked onto her wrists, Eleanor heard Maya's voice one last time. Leo will grow up knowing the truth about his family. He will know that justice, though it may be delayed, always arrives. Television cameras captured Eleanor being led away in handcuffs, her downfall broadcast live to millions. The empire she had built on lies crumbled in a matter of hours. That afternoon, Maya sat in the park with Leo, watching him play on the playground. Her phone rang. It was Evelyn. Daughter, I saw the news. How do you feel? Like Arthur can finally rest in peace, Maya replied, watching Leo laugh as he slid down the slide. And Leo will grow up knowing his family fought for justice, not vengeance. What Eleanor discovered too late was that Maya was not just a determined cafe worker, but the guardian of stolen legacy, a woman who had turned 3 years of silent preparation into the most perfect execution of justice the courts had ever witnessed. 2 years later, the Millbrook State Women's Prison was a very different place from the top-floor office Eleanor had once commanded, dressed in the standard orange uniform. She worked in the laundry for 25 cents an hour, an irony that was lost on no one. "Sterling, you have a visitor," the guard announced. Eleanor expected to see her former lawyer or some journalist. Instead, she found Maya in the visiting room, elegantly dressed in a navy suit that cost more than Eleanor earned in 6 months. "I come with news," Maya said confidently. "Leo just got accepted into the Maxwell Academy, the same school Arthur attended. Full scholarship." Eleanor felt a pang of something that might have been pride. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're his grandmother. And because Leo asked me if bad people could become good." Maya paused. "I told him it depended on whether they truly wanted to change." Maya opened a folder with photographs of Leo, smiling in his school uniform. "He's learning to play the violin, like his father. The teacher says he has natural talent." "How could you afford all that?" Maya smiled with genuine satisfaction. "The fortune you stole from Caroline's family has been returned by the courts. Leo is now the heir to the entire legitimate Sterling estate. Ironic, isn't it?" Eleanor closed her eyes. "And what did you gain from all this?" "I gained the opportunity to give Leo what you never gave Arthur, a family that puts love before money, and the peace of knowing that Caroline and Arthur can finally rest. Leo is happy. He is loved," Maya replied, "and that was always the only thing that mattered." Meanwhile, Leo ran to the garden of their new home in Connecticut, a cozy property overlooking a serene lake. Maya watched from the porch, and framed MBA diploma behind her. "Mom, can I play the violin for you?" Leo shouted, running toward the house. "Of course, my love," Maya replied, thinking how proud Arthur would be. Evelyn Vance visited regularly, sharing family stories that Leo cherished. "Aunt Evelyn taught me that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies," Maya had explained to Leo, "but building something so beautiful they regret not being a part of it." Leo would grow up knowing his family had fought for dignity, not vengeance. That even when the world seemed unfair, there was always a clever way to rewrite the story. Eleanor had tried to buy a grandson, but discovered that family isn't bought. It's built with love and presence. She had lost everything because she confused power with worth and money with dignity. Maya's true victory wasn't destroying Eleanor, but building a future where Leo would never repeat the mistakes of the previous generation, where a child would grow up knowing that identity isn't defined by skin color or bank accounts, but by strength of character. Eleanor tried to use her money to steal Leo, but discovered that true love is priceless. Maya proved that persistence and intelligence always overcome arrogance and prejudice.